is Wednesday, October 4th. A Fox News alert back on U.S. soil. Breaking overnight, the girlfriend of the Las Vegas gunman greeted by the feds on the tarmac in Los Angeles, once again considered a person of interest.
Yeah, this says police released brand new body cam footage showing their frantic search for the shooter as bullets soared right over their heads.
Touching tributes pouring in for the victims as President Trump heads to Vegas today to meet with their families. Fox and Friends First starts right now.
All right, and straight to our top story this morning and the breaking new details in the investigation here.
Police hoping that Mary Lou Danley could be a key to unlocking the motive.
Yeah, that's right. We have live Fox News team coverage as everyone continues to ask why.
Yeah, beginning with Adam Housley. He is with what police hope to learn from the woman who shared a home with Stephen Paddock. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, those tributes, those pictures really pushing investigators to try and get as much information as they can from Mary Lou Danley. In fact, we were tipped off yesterday that she was coming back and coming through LAX airport and then would be coming here. Now, here's the key with this. If you see the plane landing in Los Angeles last night, or at least you see it at the gate and her being taken from one plane, we believe the intention was to go to another plane. We don't know yet if that is the case. But here's why it happened this way. She is not officially in custody. It's a situation where she's a person of interest, and federal agents are helping Las Vegas police trying to get her back here to Las Vegas so they can continue on with their investigation, because the jurisdiction, of course, of where this happened is in Las Vegas. Now, all this comes as we're starting to hear more about the gunman. We still haven't heard a lot about him, but more from Mary Lou's sisters. Take a listen.
He sent her away so that he can plan what he's planning without interruptions. In that sense, I thank him for sparing my sister's life, but that won't be to compensate 59 people's life.
Investigators are saying that they're hearing the same thing from some other people they've interviewed at a Starbucks, for example. But at the same time, they're not getting a ton of information about this guy, about the background, about what may have made him do this. They're really hoping that Mary Lou, at least they believe in some of the initial conversations, will be able to help with that. Meantime, behind me, guys, at the Hotel Mandalay Bay, we're getting more information there about what took place. We do know this. He was known there. He was known to be a gambler there. He was known to actually go to a couple of different cabanas at the pool, and those cabanas are generally given to people that are gamblers there. At the same time, investigators say they don't believe that the hotel could have done anything to prevent this. Guys?
And now we got to see if Mary Lou knew he was going to do this, or if she was just sent away without knowing anything.
Yeah.
So, Adam, thank you so much.
Or if she was a part of it.
Yeah.
Well, some shocking new police body cam video revealing the sheer chaos as Las Vegas officers duck from a hail of bullets trying to get people to safety. Look.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable to listen to that. We're also learning new details about the dozens of people who died and stories of heroism from survivors.
Jillian Mealy picks up our team coverage live from Las Vegas for us with more. Jillian?
Heather and Rob, good morning. You know, that video, that body camera video is just really chilling to watch. So let's begin with that and play a little bit of that for you right now. Listen.
Go that way. Hey, they're shooting right at us, guys. Everybody stay down. Stay down. Where's it at?
North of the Mandalay Bay. It's coming out of a window.
Get back! Get back! Get back!
So in it, you can just hear, you can tell the sheer terror, the chaos that's going on and seeing around as gunfire is just flying everywhere. You can see officers trying to figure out where that gunfire is coming from. At that point, you can also see and hear them trying to help those innocent victims as they shield themselves and attempt to shield themselves from that gunfire. So a really terrifying scene there, that is for sure. And this is, we are just starting to learn the identities of some of the victims. 59 people in total, as we know at this point, have died. We know 36 victims at this point. That includes a kindergarten teacher. That includes a mother of 3, a mother of 4, a man described as a loving husband, a father, a grandfather. That includes 2 Army vets. So really tragic stories as we start to learn the identities of these victims. Also, we want to let you know there were a bunch of vigils throughout the area last night, which was definitely a scene of healing, an emotional scene. There were a number of different ones held throughout the Las Vegas area, on the Strip as well. And finally here, we want to let you know that in the midst of this chaos, you had a lot of people making phone calls to their family, trying to find them. Take a listen to this father as he tried desperately to find his daughter.
She goes, it sounds like firecrackers. I'm hearing the rapid fire of an automatic weapon. I'm like, Annalise, that is not firecrackers. I'm telling her, I need to know which way you're running. She says, I'm running towards a building that says videopoker.com, Dad. Wow. And the whole time I'm driving like a lunatic to get down here. As she was running, the gunfire was lessening. I could hear it weakening, so I knew she was running away.
Yeah, so you can only imagine, you actually can't imagine putting yourself in a situation like that where a dad is just trying to helplessly find his daughter. He went on to say it took him, about an hour to be able to find her. Guys.
Yeah. Oh, that's just horrific. You're right. I cannot imagine. Jillian, thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. There were stories of people listening to people's cell phones ring there across the venue when family and friends were trying to find them.
That's just horrifying. And I guess the big question now remains, the thing that's driving everybody crazy here a couple days later is, why did he do this? What was the motive? And we're all just desperate for that answer. This is the Clark County Sheriff, Joseph Lombardo, explaining why this process, figuring out the why, is taking so long.
You're probably saying, well, Jesus, Sheriff, it's 2017. How come it's taking so long for you to evaluate that? There's chain of custody issues associated with that. We have to ensure we're dotting the I's and crossing the T. I want to understand the motivation that you describe, okay, to prevent any future incidents. And, did this person get radicalized unbeknownst to us? And we want to identify that source.
That is what everyone wants to know, for sure.
And that soundbite right there was something everybody talked about.
Yeah, and then looking through his digital footprint, of which he apparently didn't have a lot of social media accounts, if any at all. And so that, has a lot of people scratching their heads as well. But Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, he says one thing is clear, that this was a deliberate act of terror.
It's shaping up to be a very deliberate act of terror. This is beyond dispute. The question becomes motive. Everybody seems to be searching for a motive. Martha, I would argue most of the clues of the motive is right in front of us. It was a politically selected target. I think the target being selected, and let me say this is the perception based on available information, the perception was there's going to be a lot of pro-gun folks there, Trump supporters at this concert. So therefore, I believe the perception was by the shooter, by the individual who did this, by Paddock, that this was a legitimate target of political expression.
Well, joining us now is Suffolk County, New York Sheriff Vincent DeMarco to tell us what he thinks. A lot of opinions, a lot of ideas, but not a lot of solid answers at this point as to why.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
But the key to this is motive, as everybody's saying. And the definition that we work with in law enforcement as an act of terror or terrorism is that the perpetrator is trying to influence the behavior of a population or a policy in the government and trying to force a change through mass destruction, kidnapping, assassination, etc. And we don't know what the motive is yet. And Professor Bozganor, who's an expert in counterterrorism in Israel, who I've seen lecture many times, has said there's a formula for terrorism, and it's motive and the ability to act act on that motive. And we don't know the motive yet.
Because a lot of people almost immediately online, they were saying, oh, this is obviously a case of terrorism. This is domestic terrorism. Why are you just calling it a shooter? Why are you just calling it a murder? And, you know, I myself was saying this is a case of domestic terrorism. But it has to involve more than just a mass killing of a lot of people.
But yes, I mean, this is a mass murder, obviously, but is it an act of terrorism? Well, I think we need to know what the motive is first. And once we know the motive, well, then we can label it. Everybody's always in a rush to label things, label things, label things. And a lot of times that's political. But, you know, in my line of work, I don't work in the politics of it. We work with facts, and we don't know the facts yet. Is this guy just a psychopath who's a mass murderer?
And that's exactly what I was going to say, is, I mean, I think we give oftentimes a lot of credit to those that are undeserving of, you know, I think terrorism actually takes a lot of forethought and is almost, in a lot of ways, can be a very political thing. Whereas I think a lot of people just want to see the world burn. They just want to see people die. They hate a certain group of people. They kill them. That doesn't add up to terrorism. That's not intelligent enough to be terrorism.
Right. I mean, this is obviously a premeditated. He thought this out very well. He obviously, I think we're going to find through some, when they get into his electronics, some internet searches that you know, he learned how to use cameras, set up cameras outside. I mean, somebody had to train him to do this, or he had to get these ideas to do this.
Well, he was not. He's a pretty smart guy from what we've learned about it. Real estate speculation. He was an accountant and stuff like that. I guess my question is, what was your initial instinct? I mean, you're a police officer. You're a sheriff. When you first heard about this, did you think that this could just be a random act of violence, or did you think there was some underlying motivation here, something maybe on the religion front, something maybe on the political front? What was your instinct?
When I first heard it, I thought this was just a psychopath mass murderer. That was my initial, and I'm sticking by that until I know the facts. But I think, you know, most people have a digital footprint. This guy obviously didn't. He's a you know, an older gentleman, and maybe by design he didn't have a. But I'm sure he used the internet, and once I think they get into his internet history, they're going to be able to determine what the motive is, that and along with the girlfriend. If
we could go back to the definition, though, of domestic terrorism. I know we kind of started off with that, but we can actually put it up for people as well. So it's not just terrorizing people. I think that's where people that are not in law enforcement, they think, well, you know, obviously this person had guns and was terrorizing this mass group of people, 20 to 30,000 people. That alone is not domestic terrorism, though. So it has to fit this definition.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
As you were saying.
Right. You know, usually it's like a political thing. You're trying to change the policy of a government or change the behavior of a civilian population to make them change the way they behave. Not maybe enjoy an outdoor concert anymore.
Right. Yeah. And you were mentioning the girlfriend/roommate. What do you think the key will be there? Specifically, do you think that the Philippines, does that have a tie-in at all? Since he was obviously sending money there as well, we know at this point.
Yeah, well, we obviously know that there are Islamic terrorists in the Philippines. Right. So I think you have to keep that as an option, and I think we will, find out about that very soon.
Right.
But the girlfriend, it is very curious that she left the country to go to the Philippines right before this.
Yes.
And also, if she was living with him, a roommate, did she realize he was stockpiling weapons? And did he have help, or was there a plan to have help to do this? Because there's no way he was going to be able to fire all those weapons.
The million-dollar question is what she knew and what she didn't know, and whether she was an accomplice. So, Sheriff, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
My pleasure.
We do appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right, time now, 11 minutes after the hour, and Democrats quick to turn a national tragedy into a political platform.
Too many Republicans in Congress have tried to enact the dream agenda of the NRA and the gun lobby.
We've been hearing a lot of this. Why our next guest, an NRA activist, says gun control is not the way to prevent mass shootings.
And Jason Aldean just canceled his weekend concert, saying that this world is becoming the kind of place that he's afraid to raise his children in. The country star's emotional message to America.
All right, President Trump heading to Las Vegas today to meet with first responders and victims of the worst mass shooting in modern American history. For that, let's turn to Griff Jenkins live in Washington this morning with more. Hey, Griff.
Hey, good morning, Rob. The President and First Lady Melania will travel to Las Vegas a little later this morning, meeting with victims, survivors, and first responders. And during yesterday's trip to tour the hurricane-ravaged Puerto Rico, the President took an opportunity to address that massacre and praise law enforcement.
Look, we have a tragedy. We're going to do, and what happened in Las Vegas is in many ways a miracle. The police department has done such an incredible job, and we'll be talking about gun laws as time goes on.
And in Puerto Rico, where the death toll has now risen to 34, with more than 90% of the residents remaining without power, the president met with local leaders and praised the efforts of Puerto Rico's governor, talking with victims, shaking hands, and at one point even throwing paper towels to the crowd. Now, some critics are making light of the president's joke with the governor about the budget.
I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack, because we've spent a lot of money on Puerto Rico, and that's fine. We've saved a lot of lives.
Officials estimate we could be looking at some $90 billion in damage, Maria becoming the worst hurricane to hit the island in 90 years. Early on, the president had that exchange of words with San Juan's mayor over the federal response, but we've learned from the Pentagon, Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis saying that there are now 10,000 troops on the ground in Puerto Rico. The USS Comfort, of course, in port there. President Trump will be joined by First Lady Melania, and we're hearing possibly when he goes to Vegas, I apologize, when he goes to Vegas, he'll be joined by House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and possibly Nevada Rep Mark Amadei. The president will make at least two stops while he's on that trip to Vegas. So 2 big trips in 2 days, guys. Back to you, Heather, Rob.
Yeah.
It certainly is. All right, Griff, thanks so much.
Thank you, Griff.
All right, 18 minutes after the hour, investigators now calling the shooting a premeditated act in Las Vegas as we learn that the gunman installed cameras inside and outside of his hotel room.
Coming up, the brand new images from the crime scene and what police are now looking for. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. As the entire country struggles to understand the tragedy in Las Vegas, Democrats are quick to turn this into a gun control issue.
Slaughter after slaughter, Congress does nothing.
In the face of tens of thousands of gun deaths every year, too many Republicans in Congress have tried to enact the dream agenda of the NRA and the gun lobby.
Evil attacked Las Vegas, but we can do something about it. We can say enough is enough.
We're here to react as co-founder of Empowered and NRA commentator Antonia Okafor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So your initial reaction to the comments that were so quick to follow this horrifying mass murder, as we were discussing earlier, immediately calling for gun control. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I want to give my heartfelt condolences to the victims and family of this horrific act of violence. Heather, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results each time. And that's what the Democrats in Congress, that's what Hillary Clinton is doing right now by perpetuating this rhetoric that more gun control, more of the same is going to do anything differently this time.
And do you think that they're doing a disservice? In fact, they're actually accomplishing the opposite of what they're trying to accomplish by bringing awareness to gun control by so suddenly and quickly heading that direction?
Absolutely. See, the problem is that after things like this, after mass shootings, after horrific acts of violence like this, they go to gun control and implementing the same thing that we've done over and over again before. We can look at Europe to see, 4 mass shootings happened in 2015. They almost have semi-automatic weapons completely banned over there, but yet there's still violent criminals who are there to implement harm. Same thing here in America. We have Baltimore, we have Chicago, we have St. Louis. We have all of these places that are ridden with violence, but yet they've implemented more and more gun control as the years have gone on. So we see that these policies are not working. We have to change them to be solutions where they focus on the people, the individuals behind the gun, not necessarily the actual actual gun itself. And that's what we have to see in the future.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because obviously people are looking for answers. They're desperate for answers, not only in the motive as to why he did this, but how this happened and how we can keep it from happening again. So on that front, you can understand people looking to, you know, try to do something to keep it from happening.
Absolutely, and it's understandable. You know, one thing I love about, unfortunately, these tragedies that happen is the reaction, the American people coming together, unifying, and showing who we are as American citizens as part of this world. And I think one thing that we're very good at is problem solving. And so I believe that if we're willing to change the direction that we've been in before, you know, we voted for President Trump because we wanted a difference, and we didn't vote for Hillary for the same thing. And so I think it's important that if we listen to our president, we listen to the leadership and the advice that he has for the future going on and forward, that we can actually make change in this horrible circumstance so this doesn't happen in the future.
Yeah, look at the reasons behind why someone did this, and not necessarily looking at gun control immediately. Antonio, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Rob?
All right, ladies, 25 minutes after the hour, emotional moments as a police officer killed in the Vegas massacre is remembered by his colleague.
Even though Officer Hartfield was at the concert as a civilian, he ultimately gave his life protecting others.
Well, we are live on the ground with the stories of heroism in the midst of this horror and this tragedy. It's all coming up next.
Welcome back to Fox News Alert. Breaking overnight, the girlfriend of the Las Vegas gunman greeted by the feds on the tarmac in Los Angeles. Once again, considered a person of interest.
Yeah, police hoping that Mary Lou Danley could be the key to unlocking a motive here. We have live Fox News team coverage.
Let's begin with Adam Housley. He is live for us once again in Las Vegas with what police hope to learn from the woman who shared a home with Stephen Paddock. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning. Yeah, she's definitely part of the investigation. We'll get to Mary Lou Danley in a moment, who's now back on U.S. soil. Let's first of all show you some photos, and those photos are actually of inside the hotel room with the weapons. I have to tell you, I'm told the police chief here is very upset these photos got out, because the only people that had these photos were his tactical team. So it wasn't like they were with other agencies as well. And these photos got out, and the media kind of got admonished for showing these at one point, but now they're so far out there, they said go ahead and use them. But you can see some of the weaponry that was inside this hotel room. I'm told by the team that went in that it took them a number of minutes, obviously almost an hour all told, because of the location. They had to clear 3 floors, the floor below, the floor he was on, and the floor above. And at that point, of course, we know the gunman was now dead. Talking with the sheriff yesterday and with those on the staff of the sheriff's department and also the police department, they'll tell you that they, of course, are just heartbroken over what happened here, but the investigation continues to go forward. Here's one soundbite from the sheriff about all this yesterday afternoon at a press conference. Take a listen.
This individual was premeditated, obviously premeditated. The fact that he had the type of weaponry and amount of weaponry in that room, it was pre-planned extensively, and I'm pretty sure he evaluated everything that he did in his actions.
The investigation, of course, includes Mary Lou Danley, we know is now on U.S. soil. We got tipped off that she was flying back from the Philippines, and you can see the van at Los Angeles International Airport pick her up and move her to a different location. Now, the plan, we're told, is that she's not in custody, so she has to, and she's so far, at least as of last night, had been cooperative. The idea is to get her back here to Las Vegas. The Las Vegas PD has jurisdiction. They're the lead in this case. The federal agents, of course, helping her, are helping them to get her here. We just don't know at this hour whether or not she's officially come to Las Vegas yet. That, of course, is being kept tight and under wraps. They're trying to get her back here as safely and quickly and as quietly as possible. I'm told that she's already been helpful. They don't want to spook her to the point where she won't speak anymore. And we're also told that they have, of course, several things they want to show her, including maybe walking her back through some of the crime scene. Not here, but at the houses that the suspect, or I shouldn't say the suspect, the killer owned. Back to you guys.
Hopefully she's got some answers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hard to imagine she didn't know that he was amassing all of those weapons and guns.
Yeah,
so.
We're going to have to see. Adam, thanks so much.
Thank you. Well, meantime, there's some brand new body cam videos showing Las Vegas officers racing to get people to safety as the cold-blooded killer unleashes a hail of bullets. That heart-pounding footage comes as we're learning more about one of the heroic officers who lost his life saving others. Jillian Mealy joins up or picks up our team coverage for us live from Las Vegas with more. Good morning, Jillian.
Good morning, Heather. You know, it's hard to watch that body camera video because it takes you into the moments as police are trying to figure out, number one, where that gunfire came from, and number two, they're trying to help the people who were innocent around them, who are trying to cover away from those bullets that are flying everywhere. When you watch this video, you'll see just the terror and the chaos that was going on in those moments. Watch.
Go that way, go that way, go that way. Hey, they're shooting right at us, guys. Everybody stay down. Stay down. Where's it at? North of the Mandalay Bay. It's coming out of a window.
Get back! Get back! Get back!
Definitely hard to listen to there, but you can see how terrifying it was in those moments. In those moments, as we now know, 59 people have died. We are starting to learn the identities of some of the victims. We have 36 people that we've learned of so far. That includes people, you know, everyday citizens, a nurse, recent college graduates, mothers, fathers, families, people out there just trying to be able to get away from that gunfire. And unfortunately, a lot of them couldn't, including 2 Army vets. This, as new pictures are coming in as well, that are really creepy and haunting to take a look at, because what you see is just darkness, and you see the debris that's scattered out there, that's still left out there, that the people had to run and just drop everything. You see purses, you see chairs, you see shirts out there. So it's images like that that are hard to see. And one final note, we also do want to tell you about a Las Vegas police officer who was killed trying to save other people. Listen.
I want to mention that one of those brave people was Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Officer Charleston Hartfield. Even though Officer Hartfield was at the concert as a civilian, he immediately took action to save lives. In that moment, he was acting as a police officer. He ultimately gave his life protecting others.
So whether it was police officers on duty running into that gunfire as it was happening, or police officers off duty who happened to be at the concert enjoying their time with their friends and family, it's still a really, really horrific scene and something sad that's going to take a long time for people to get past, guys.
And Officer Hartfield had written a book about what it was like to be an officer there in Las Vegas, so I would encourage people to
He represents the best of us, absolutely. Yeah. That's absolutely true. All right, Jillian, thanks so much. All right, brand new images from the crime scene that we've now seen revealing the shooter had installed cameras both inside and outside of his hotel room, like right there on that cart, believed to be an attempt to see if police were coming for him, to know when they were going to come and try to knock down his door. Here now with reaction to that is cybersecurity analyst and former senior advisor to the State Department Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program, Morgan Wright. Morgan, thanks so much for coming on this morning. And again, we keep talking about the level of advanced planning that was involved in this. I mean, this was obviously a very intelligent and very, very, very sick person, but very intelligent as well, who did this. And he had a lot of angles covered here to do a lot of damage. When you see that he had, he had the room service cart, had a camera on it. I mean, that's, a lot of people don't even think that way. What does that tell you about this man and the planning here?
Look, his relative inexperience in tactics and weapons belies the sophistication of his planning. And I'll tell you, the thing that concerned me most when I saw this, Rob, too, is not only that cart, but if you think about what we're facing now, we didn't used to think about IEDs. We didn't used to think about explosives. But if he could put a camera there, he could also put, obviously, inside that cart an IED. He could have waited until he saw somebody there, detonated those things. We've seen that happen. When I was in Pakistan and Turkey, we saw the same kind of planning with some of the groups out there. So this, unfortunately, is somebody who spent a lot of time, a lot of planning. A lot of the key behaviors were there that that are very similar to how you do a terrorist attack, but unfortunately for this guy, you know, it was a sustained, you know, type of a kinetic attack.
And I mean, he has no real history of any kind of violence or anything like that. And to see somebody that it's just scary to think that somebody is so good at something like this when they really have shown no signs of it in the past. I mean, to have that elevated level, to be up there on the 32nd floor, looking down on the concert. I mean, we see people all the time try to commit mass homicides, and they struggle to get a few people killed. This person was technically proficient in this heinous act, and it's a scary world that we live in.
Yeah, and I was going to add to that, Rob. Now that the FBI and the other folks involved, and they're looking at his computers, we're going to see how he went about doing this. If they still exist, did he do research? Did he have communications with other people? You know, we know that some of the 9/11 hijackers had contact with Anwar al-Awlaki. Was there a mentor or somebody else that he was talking to? You know, how did he purchase the equipment? So the electronics, the computers are going to help us piece together about how this guy got to where he was.
And was he just a psychopath with no real reasoning, or was he actually motivated by
was
something
he inspired?
else? And we don't know that. Did the hotel staff at Mandalay Bay, did they miss anything here? Should there have been signs? I mean, and one of my friends actually said to me, they're like, how could the maids have missed all of this in the room? But I guess you could just tell the maids not to come in.
Right. No, look, and this is one of the discussions I was having with Tony Schaefer last night, some other folks. I used to teach behavior analysis. I taught out at the National Security Agency to damage assessment agents. And the question is always, why did this happen and what were the warning signs? With this guy, again, it goes back to like the terrorism planning cycle. We saw the 9/11 hijackers. We saw the 7705 train bombers. They all did a lot of the same thing, which is they came together, they did rehearsals, they planned, they did broad target selection, actions on the objective. And so the question here was, do we turn into a police state, or do we start training people to say, we may not have been able to catch this guy, but based on his behaviors, are there things we can train staff? After a couple days, if nobody lets you in the room, maybe security ought to be going in there and saying, hey, sorry, folks, after 48 hours, we're coming in and checking to make sure everything's okay. It's just, this is a tough call, and there is no magic answer to this.
And nobody saw it coming, and we learned last night from Catherine Herridge that this went back as far back as June. It's October now. You can plan a lot of things in that many months. All right, Morgan, thank you so much for coming on this morning. We do appreciate it. All right.
Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and liberal attacks sinking to a new low in the wake of the Vegas massacre. The professor who is blaming President Trump and white victimization for the tragedy.
And some hotels already stepping up security, checking bags, adding metal detectors at a hotel after a trove of weapons was found in the shooter's room, all those guns. But is America ready to sacrifice privacy for safety? Counterterrorism expert Jim Hansen answers that question, and it's coming up next.